Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Excellent. Today we're going old school,
Oh, how old are we talking?
1920s.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's on the table?
A book called An Introduction to the Study of the Tarot,
My.
Paul Foster Case. Now, before you picture, like a boardwalk fortune teller,
Right, yeah.
this book takes tarot in a completely different direction.
Okay, on all ears.
Case sees it as this tool for serious thought, for understanding some pretty heavy occult science principles.
Interesting. So not just predicting the future, but like a system of knowledge in itself.
Exactly. And the lens he uses to look at all this Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism.
Whoa, okay. That's a deep dive for sure. So Case is basically saying that tarot is like this secret Kabbalistic textbook.
That's one way to put it. He even suggests that the tarot wasn't originally meant for games or fortune-telling at all.
Really? So what was it for, in his view?
He thinks it was a way to preserve a secret doctrine, holding, keys to universal wisdom within each of us.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. But let's back up a sec.
Sure.
For folks who haven't spent much time with tarot, can we lay some groundwork?
Absolutely. So most people know tarot has 78 cards, right?
Yep, that's the basic setup.
Right. And those are divided into two main sections, the major arcana and the minor arcana. We've got those 56 minor arcana cards split into the four suits.
Wands, cups, swords, pentacles. The classic four.
Exactly. But they're not just random groupings.
Right. In traditional tarot, each suit represents a different world or a plane of existence, each with its own element, zodiac sign, even a human principle it connects to.
Like wands, for example. Pretty fiery, right?
Yeah, wands linked to fire, which makes sense. But then that fire ties into the spiritual world, certain zodiac signs, and even the idea of a person's will, their drive.
And cups, being water, they're all about emotions, right?
Exactly. Connected to the soul, relationships, all that flows.
So each card is already like this whole mini symbol system. What about those major arcana cards, though? The ones with all the dramatic pictures and figures?
Yeah, those are where things get really interesting. We'll definitely dive into those individually later.
Jeez.
But for now, think of them as representing both the paths between major concepts in Kabbalah and D, the activities of those concepts themselves. It's like they're both map and D destination.
Okay, I'm starting to see why this needs a deep dive. But you mentioned Kabbalah earlier. Is Case trying to explain Kabbalah through the tarot?
Not exactly explaining, more like showing how tarot uses Kabbalistic ideas.
Okay. Like what? Give me an example.
One of the biggies is the Tetragrammaton.
The what now?
The Tetragrammaton. It's the four-letter Hebrew name of God, usually written as Jehovah.
Oh, okay. I've heard that before, but what's that got to do with tarot?
Well, Case thinks it's like a cipher for deeper tarot meaning.
Hold on. So each letter in Jehovah has some secret meaning tied to the tarot.
Multiple layers of meaning, actually. It's not as simple as J equals the emperor or anything like that. But each letter ties to numbers, to those suits we mentioned, even to the court cards like the kings and queens and those different worlds each suit represents. It's all about finding these parallels between things.
Okay, my brain's already doing stretches to get ready for this.
You'll be fine.
To prime the pump, can you give me one example of this letter connection thing? Just so I'm not totally lost when we get into it.
All right, let's take the first letter, Yod. One meaning is hand. Symbolizes creation, that active principle, making stuff happen.
Okay, I'm following so far.
It also ties to the number one, wands, fire, all that really active, forceful energy. Now think about the magician card.
Oh, right. He's card number 1, and he's all about, making things happen, using his will to channel energy. So are you saying the magician is like the Yod of the tarot deck?
You got it. He's one expression of that Yod energy. But it can manifest in other cards, too.
Yeah.
The point is, once you understand the Tetragrammaton, you start to see these echoes throughout the whole deck.
Okay, I'm getting chills, the good kind of chills. This is already blowing my mind a little.
Just wait, we're just getting started.
So are we ready to jump into these major arcana?
Let's do it.
Where do we even begin with a system this complex?
Well, naturally, we start at the beginning.
You mean?
The Fool.
Perfect. Because who doesn't love a good paradox? The Fool is numbered 0, not 1. It's it's before the beginning.
Exactly. And that ties right into the concept of Yod. The Fool represents pure potential before it becomes action, fire, the magician. It's that breath of life, the spark of what if, totally undefined.
So the Fool is almost irresponsible with potential. It's everywhere, but it's not doing anything yet?
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the Fool so fascinating. Limitless possibilities, but also this kind of folly in trying to define or grasp the absolute, which Case makes that point too.
Already has me thinking. If the magician is yod energy all focused, what does that say about how we use our potential, you know? But okay, let's stick with the cards for now. What comes after the potential explosion of the Fool?
Well, something has to harness that energy, shape it.
Right.
That's where the magician comes in, card number 1.
Okay, so we've got the Fool overflowing with potential, right?
That raw yod energy, yeah.
And then the magician steps in. He's all focused action, giving that potential some shape.
Exactly. Channeling it into something concrete.
So what happens next, T, in this tarot journey? What comes after the magician?
Well, things can't be all action all the time.
True. You burn out pretty quick that way.
Right. Got to have some balance. We need some reflection, some inner wisdom to balance things out.
Makes sense. So who embodies that in the tarot world?
That's where the High Priestess comes in, card number 2.
Ooh, the High Priestess. She always struck me as so mysterious, a little intimidating even.
Yeah, I could see that. She's got that whole vibe going on with the scroll, those pillars behind her.
Yeah. But is she connected to that yod energy too? Like the Fool and the magician?
Not directly, no. Remember, the Tetragrammaton has 4 letters, each with its own whole set of meanings.
Right, right.
The High Priestess, she embodies the second letter, hey. And it's all about receiving, about inner knowledge, not so much outward action.
Okay, I'm with you. So if the magician is like our will going OUT into the world, the High Priestess is more about intuition, that gut feeling that guides us.
You got it. One way to look at it, yeah. He's also about duality.
Duality? How so?
Well, you see it in those black and white pillars behind her, representing those opposing forces, right?
Light and dark, yeah.
Exactly. And she's sitting between them, showing us we need both. Outward action and inner wisdom to really navigate life.
I'm seeing it. It's like she's saying, hold on, magician, before you go changing the world, check in with yourself. What's your intuition telling you?
Right. And that scroll she's holding with the word Tuzera on it, that hints at hidden knowledge, those esoteric teachings. Case links her to figures like Isis, Mary, those who hold secret wisdom.
Okay, this eye's getting deep.
We're going deep. That's the point.
I love it. So we've got potential, action, then reflection. Where does that lead us in this unfolding tarot story?
Well, after reflection comes creation. Right?
Makes sense.
That's where the Empress steps in, card number 3, bringing that abundance, that nurturing energy.
Ah, the Empress. She always gave me very Mother Nature vibes.
Right. All lush and fertile, surrounded by those symbols of growth.
Yeah, exactly. How does she fit into this whole Kabbalistic interpretation?
The Empress, she embodies the 3rd letter of the Tetragrammaton, vow.
Vow, okay.
One meaning of vow is nail. Might seem kind of strange.
Yeah, a little bit.
But Kay says it's about connection, things coming together. It's that moment when potential and action meet and something is born.
Ooh, that's good. So it's like the Empress is the culmination of everything that came before her.
Yeah.
The potential of the Fool, the action of the magician, the wisdom of the High Priestess. All of it comes together to create something new.
Beautiful way to put it. And remember how vow also represents connection. The Empress literally embodies that by bringing new life into the world. She's creation, growth, that nurturing energy that sustains us.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. It's like each card builds upon the previous one, creating this whole intricate tapestry of meaning. But, okay, we've got creation. What comes after that? Don't tell me it's destruction.
Not quite destruction, but
Yeah.
structure, order, boundaries.
Okay, I can see where this is going.
Enter the Emperor, card number 4.
Of course. He's definitely got that law and order energy about him.
Yeah.
Sitting on his throne with those mountains behind him.
Right. He's all about establishing that solid foundation.
So is he another vow card then? Since it's about things coming together?
Interestingly, no. The Emperor is another Hay card, like the High Priestess.
Wait, really? But they seem so different.
Well, remember, even the same letter can have different expressions. Depends where it falls in the Tetragrammaton.
Right, layers and layers. So it's like Hay has a receptive side, that inward-focused side with the High Priestess, but a more active, outward-facing side with the Emperor.
Exactly. 2 sides of the same coin, right?
I get it. So the High Priestess is about inner wisdom, while the Emperor is about applying that wisdom to create order in the world.
He's the lawgiver, sets boundaries, creates structure.
I see it. It's like the Empress creates that abundance, and then the Emperor comes along and says, okay, here's how we're going to organize it. Here are the rules. This is how we make it sustainable.
Precisely. They represent that balance of masculine and feminine energies, order and chaos, that's necessary for creation to flourish.
This is making me think about how often we resist structure, thinking it stifles creativity. But maybe it's more like a trellis for a vine, giving it something to grow on. Okay, enough gardening metaphors. What comes after this establishment of order with the emperor?
Well, once you have order, structure, you need someone to pass down that knowledge, to guide others on the path. That's where the Hierophant comes in, card number 5.
Ah, the Hierophant. He always gave me religious leader vibes.
Yeah, with those 2 figures kneeling before him.
Right. So is He another Hay card like the emperor?
Nope. The Hierophant embodies vow. But again, a different expression of it than the Empress.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this works. So it's vow, but this time it's about connection in the sense of bridging worlds, like the physical and the spiritual.
You got it, the known and the unknown. He's the teacher, the guide, the one who transmits wisdom, tradition.
And his number 5, that's the balance point between 1, the magician, and 9, the hermit, right, who we'll get to later, I assume.
You assumed correctly.
So he's the midpoint in this unfolding tarot story.
You could say that, yeah.
Like he's integrating everything that came before and then preparing us for what comes next in the journey.
You're catching on. The Hierophant is all about that integration, that transmission of knowledge, that wisdom that helps us navigate the path ahead.
Okay, my brain needs a moment to process all of this.
Take your time. It's a lot to absorb.
We've gone from pure potential to focused action to inner wisdom to creation to structure to guidance.
Oh,
It's like we're building a whole universe here, one card at a time.
That's the beauty of the tarot, isn't it?
It really is.
This intricate system that reflects the complexities of life itself. And we're just getting started.
I'm both excited and a little intimidated to see where this goes next, but we'll have to save that for the final part of our deep dive. Back again for more tarot wisdom. Last we left off, we were talking about the Hierophant, all about guidance and passing down those traditions.
Right? The keeper of wisdom, in a way.
So where does our journey through the major arcana lead us next? What comes after the Hierophant?
Well, after we receive that guidance, it's time to actually, make some choices. Put it into practice.
Thesis, huh?
Yeah, and that brings us to a card that often gets a little misinterpreted, I think.
Which one?
The Lovers, card number 6.
Oh, the Lovers. I'll admit, I always thought this one was just about, like, romance, finding your soulmate, all that.
Yeah, that's the common interpretation for sure.
But knowing what we do and now about tarot's deeper meaning, I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
Definitely. I mean, love and relationships, they're definitely part of it. But Case suggests the Lovers are really more about, like, the fundamental nature of choice itself. Choice. How so?
Well, it ties into the Hebrew letter it embodies, Zain, which one meaning of Zain is a sword, division, separation, that kind of thing.
So are we talking those classic images of, like, 2 paths diverging, like we're at a crossroads and got to decide which way to go?
It's a little more nuanced than that, I think. Remember, the Tetragrammaton is all about those layers, right? Zain isn't just about division. It's also about the potential for union that comes from recognizing those separate things.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see what you mean. It's not just picking a path. It's understanding that every choice creates a split, right? A division between what we choose and what we leave behind.
Exactly. And Case points out that in a lot of depictions of the Lovers, there's an angel above them blessing their union. It's like saying, yes, choices create division, but there's also this potential for harmony, for coming together even with those differences. That's actually really beautiful. Makes me think about how often we get paralyzed by decisions, afraid of making the wrong one. Maybe it's less about the rightness and more about understanding that inherent duality, in every choice.
That's really powerful insight. The Lovers challenge us to embrace that duality, to see both the separation and that potential for union that comes with it.
So after we face those big life path choices with the Lovers, where do we go next on this journey?
Well, we need some willpower to actually ACT on those choices, right?
Right. Can't just sit around and contemplate forever.
Exactly. That's where the Chariot comes in, card number 7. It's all about taking the reins, steering our course.
This one always felt powerful to me. The charioteer standing so tall, determined. Is it connected to Zain then? That sword energy of decisive action?
Not quite. The Chariot actually embodies Cheth, the 8th Hebrew letter, and one of its meanings is a field.
A field. How does that relate to the Chariot?
It might seem unrelated, but Case links it to the idea of cultivation, like You need to master something before you can truly wield its power.
So the chariot isn't just about charging ahead blindly.
No, not at all.
There's this sense of having cultivated the skills, the willpower, to actually control those metaphorical horses that are pulling us forward.
That's it exactly. It's about mastering our impulses, emotions, even the opposing forces within us, which are often represented by those two sphinxes that are shown pulling the chariot.
It's like that saying, discipline equals freedom, you know?
Right.
The chariot's showing us that true freedom comes from mastering ourselves, from having the willpower to actually direct our own course.
Beautifully put. Now, mastery isn't just about brute force, though, is it? It's also about inner strength. And that leads us to the aptly named strength card number 8.
Oh, strength. This one always intrigued me. It's not about muscles fighting. It's about this woman gently closing a lion's mouth.
Right. It's a very different kind of strength.
What's Case's take on that image?
He connects strength to the letter Teth, the 9th one in Hebrew, which it symbolizes a serpent.
A serpent. Those aren't usually associated with strength.
I know. Serpents often get a bad rap, but in a lot of traditions, they actually represent wisdom, transformation, that whole shedding your skin idea.
So it's not about overpowering the beastly parts of ourselves. It's more about, like, understanding them, working with them. Like that woman with the lion, she's not forcing it, but there's this deep understanding there.
You got it. It's about taming those primal instincts, not through brute force, but through inner strength, compassion even. And remember, we mentioned the Empress was all about understanding. Strength is actually linked to that same concept, showing us that it takes real understanding to master ourselves.
Man, this whole journey is making me rethink a lot of my assumptions about strength and willpower. It's a lot more internal than I realized. So where do we go from this place of inner mastery? What's the next step?
Well, sometimes to truly master ourselves, we need to, step away from the world a bit.
A retreat.
Exactly. That brings us to the Hermit, card number 9. He's all about introspection, solitude, seeking that wisdom within.
He's definitely the most introverted card in the deck, all alone on that mountaintop with his lantern. But if strength was about understanding, what new knowledge does the Hermit bring to the table?
Well, the Hermit embodies Yod, that very first letter we talked about.
Yod, like the Fool.
Yeah, exactly. That spark of potential. But here, it's turned inward, not outward like with the Magician.
Oh, I see. So it's about seeking illumination through introspection, connecting with that divine spark within us.
You got it. Case says the Hermit represents those times when we need solitude, when all the external stuff can distract us from the real work of self-discovery. And notice that lantern he carries.
Yeah, what about it?
It's not just for him. It's also illuminating the path for others, too.
That's such a great point. It's like he's saying, hey, I've been through all this. I've learned some things. Now let me show you the way.
Exactly. It's guidance, but from a place of deep inner knowing, not just external authority.
Right. He's not just telling you what to do. He's showing you how he found his own WN way.
Exactly. Now, after this introspective period with the Hermit, things kind of shift again. We come back to the world, but with this new understanding of how it works. That's where the Wheel of Fortune comes in, card number 10.
The Wheel of Fortune. This one always felt, I don't know, a little overwhelming to me.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on.
All those symbols, the creatures, the spinning wheel itself. What's it about? Once we've done all that inner work with the Hermit, what's the message of the wheel?
The Wheel of Fortune is all about understanding that life is cyclical.
Okay, yeah. Ups and downs, good times, bad times.
Exactly. Fortune and misfortune. But it's not just about passively riding the wheel. Case emphasizes that we also have the ability to, influence it, to use our will or understanding to navigate those changes.
So it's not fatalism. It's more like informed participation. Like, we understand the game is rigged, but we've learned some moves to play it well.
I love that analogy. And those creatures on the wheel, often depicted as rising and falling, they represent the 4 elements. Those forces that are at play in the universe that are influencing our lives. It's about seeing ourselves as part of this larger cosmic dance,
Okay, that's making more sense. So we've gone inward, found some wisdom, and now we're back in the world. But with this new awareness of how things work, what happens next?
Well, once we understand that life has cycles, we start to see the connections, right, between our actions and their consequences.
Karma.
You could say that. Yeah. And that's where justice steps in. Card number 11.
Justice. She always seemed pretty straightforward to me. You make good choices, good things happen. Bad choices, well, you get the idea.
Yeah, it's a pretty clear concept on the surface, but Case adds some nuance to it, for sure. He ties justice to the Hebrew letter lamed, which can symbolize an ox goad,
An ox goad.
Yeah, it's like a stick used to guide animals. So it's not so much about punishment, but about direction, course correction. Justice isn't blind revenge. It's about understanding those natural consequences of our actions.
The karma, yeah. So it's less about judging ourselves or others and more about seeing the cause and effect at play in our lives. Like every choice sets something else in motion.
Exactly. And notice, justice is often holding scales. Andy, a sword.
Yeah, why is that?
It's about discerning what needs to be balanced and then taking action to correct it. It's not passive. It's about actively shaping our world with that awareness of cause and effect.
Wow. This is giving me a whole new perspective on like responsibility. It's not just about being good or avoiding punishment. It's about understanding the impact of our choices and actively creating a more just world. So where do we go from this place of action and consequence?
Well, sometimes that action requires us to, surrender, to let go of control a bit.
Surrender. That doesn't sound very action-oriented.
No, right. But that's where we meet the Hangsman. Card number 12, one of the most visually striking images in the deck, I think.
I'll say. He's upside down.
Right.
Always wondered what that was all about. Is it punishment? Some kind of yogic pose? What does Case say?
He links the Hanged Man to the letter Mem, which it represents water, but also a state of being suspended in between. It's not about being stuck. It's about choosing to pause, to see things from a different perspective.
So it's like taking a step back, reassessing the situation before charging ahead with all that justice energy. Like, okay, I understand cause and effect, but maybe there's a bigger picture I'm missing.
That's a great way to put it. Case says the Hanged Man represents those times when we need to surrender to like a higher power, to trust that things are unfolding as they should, even if we don't understand it yet.
That's a tough lesson, especially after the active energy of justice. But I guess it's like you can steer the ship, but you can't control the tides. Right. Okay, so where does this surrender lead us in the grand scheme of the tarot?
Well, after surrender often comes transformation.
Okay, I like where this is going.
And that brings us to a card that tends to make people nervous.
Uh-oh.
Which one? Death. Card number 13.
Death, yeah. I can see why that one makes people squirm. Skeletons, scythes, not exactly cheerful imagery, but I'm guessing Case isn't talking about literal death here.
You are correct. He connects death to the letter Nun, which it symbolizes a fish.
A fish? That's kind of a jump from skeletons.
Might seem odd, but Case says it's about life moving through the ever-changing waters of existence. Death as about endings, yes, but it's also about the necessary transformation that paves the way for new beginnings.
So less about something to fear, more about embracing those endings as part of a natural cycle. Like you can't have new growth without letting go of what's no longer serving you.
That's it. Case also emphasizes that death is often depicted with a black flag bearing a white rose. The rose symbolizes purity, showing that even amidst decay, there's potential for something beautiful to emerge.
I'm starting to see why people say the tarot is about facing your fears. We've gone from facing literal death to finding balance. That's where temperance comes in, right? Card number 14.
You got it. And this one might seem like a sharp turn from death, but they're actually closely connected.
How so?
Temperance embodies Samak, the 15th Hebrew letter, which is all about support, refinement, finding that middle ground.
So if death is about things falling apart, temperance is about putting them back together, but like in a new way, a more balanced way.
Exactly. And you see that in the image, the angel is pouring liquid between two cups, right? It's about taking those raw experiences, those death and rebirth moments, and finding a way to integrate them into a harmonious whole.
Okay, I'm with you.
Case even says temperance represents the alchemist, the one who takes those base metals and refines them into gold.
Ooh, that's a great image. It's like saying, okay, life throws chaos at you, you break down, you transform, but then what? Temperance is saying, take those pieces, find what works, and create something even better.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about that ongoing process of self-refinement, of finding balance within ourselves and with the world.
All right, we've gone through some heavy stuff here. Death, rebirth, finding balance. Is there anywhere left to go in this tarot journey? Don't tell me we're ending on the devil.
Actually, we are.
Oh, no.
But like death, this one's often misunderstood.
I'd hope so.
The devil, card number 15, it's not about some external evil force like, with horns and a pitchfork.
Right, yeah.
Case actually connects it to the Hebrew letter ayin, which symbolizes an eye, specifically our perception of the world.
So it's less about evil and more about how we see things. Like our own limited perspective can be the devil that's holding us back.
You got it. The devil represents those things we fear, the shadows within ourselves that we try to ignore. But Case argues, by acknowledging them, integrating them, we actually gain more power, not less.
That's a lot less scary than, fire and brimstone. Makes me think about those times when I've made, bad choices. Not out of evil, but because I was blind to something within myself.
That's exactly what the devil card is asking us to confront. It's about becoming aware of those blind spots, those limiting beliefs that keep us chained. And notice the figures on the card. They're chained, but they also have the power to break free.
It's like saying the real devil is our own ignorance, our unwillingness to face those uncomfortable truths about ourselves. Okay, after that dose of self-reflection, where does the tarot take us next?
Well, sometimes those blind spots, those limitations, they need to be completely shattered.
Shattered, forcefully.
Yeah, and that's where the Tower comes in. Card number 16. It's a card of sudden upheaval, of those moments when everything we thought we knew comes crashing down.
Ooh, that sounds intense. The image definitely reflects that, right?
Yeah.
Tower struck by lightning, people falling from the heights.
Yeah, it's a dramatic one.
So is this like the universe punishing us for not paying attention to the devil's message?
Not punishment, but course correction, you could say. The Tower embodies the Hebrew letter Peh, which is all about speech, that power of words. It represents the divine will breaking through, often in this sudden, dramatic way, to shake us out of our complacency.
So those rock-bottom moments that force us to change, even if we weren't ready.
Exactly. Like the universe is saying, okay, enough playing small. Time to wake up.
I definitely felt that energy a few times in my life.
Right. And remember, the devil was about those shadows within us. The Tower is often what it takes to bring those shadows to light, to shatter those illusions we've built up around ourselves.
Man, this whole journey through the major arcana has been intense.
We're covering a lot of ground, that's for sure.
We've gone from potential to action to introspection to breakdown. Is there any hope left at this point? What does the tarot say about, finding our way back to wholeness after all that?
Well, even after the Tower's destruction, there's always hope. Always. That's where the Star comes in, card number 17. It's about finding peace, renewal, reconnecting with our inner guidance system.
Okay, I'm liking the sound of this already. The image definitely feels more peaceful. The woman pouring water, the big star shining above her.
Yeah, it's a very calming, hopeful card.
How does Case connect this to the whole Kabbalistic system we've been talking about?
He ties the star to the Hebrew letter Tzadi, which it symbolizes a fishhook.
A fishhook?
I know, it might seem random, but Case relates it to the idea of meditation, of drawing wisdom from the depths of our being, like a hook pulling something up from the bottom of a lake.
So after the Tower's chaos, we need to go inward again, reconnect with that inner source of wisdom we may have lost touch with. It's like, okay, my world just exploded, now what? Time to listen to my intuition, my inner voice.
You nailed it. And notice those 7 smaller stars surrounding the big one in the image.
Yeah, what about those?
They represent the 7 classical planets, but also the 7 chakras in some interpretations. It's about finding that alignment within ourselves, restoring that inner harmony.
This whole deep dive has been one aha moment after another. But gotta admit, with all this talk of going inward, I'm almost afraid to ask, what comes after reconnecting with our inner star? Do we go back to facing those shadows?
In a way, yes, but this time we're equipped to navigate them, more skillfully. And that's where the Moon comes in, card number 18. It's about facing those subconscious fears, illusions that can still trick us up, even after we've done all this inner work.
Oh boy. The image is definitely giving off some shadowy vibes, the wolf and dog howling, the path leading into darkness.
Yeah, it's a bit eerie, isn't it?
So how does Case interpret this in light of everything we've learned so far about the tarot?
He links the moon to the Hebrew letter Kuf, which symbolizes the back of the head. The part of us we can't see directly, the subconscious mind. The moon is about acknowledging that even after periods of growth, insight, there are still hidden parts of ourselves that we need to face.
So it's like, okay, I've done the work, I've found balance, I've reconnected with my inner wisdom, but there's still stuff lurking beneath the surface that can sabotage me if I'm not careful.
Yeah, that's the idea. The moon is a reminder that the journey of self-discovery, it's ongoing. There are always deeper layers to uncover, more shadows to integrate. But this time, we're not going in blindly. We've got the tools and experience from the previous cards to guide us.
This whole conversation is really highlighting that cyclical nature of the journey, isn't it? It's not linear.
Exactly.
It's like this constant dance between light and shadow,
Hmm.
between those moments of integration and those times when we got to face those messy parts of ourselves all over again. But okay, where do we go from this lunar landscape, this whole world of shadows and subconscious fears? Is there like light at the end of this tunnel?
There always is. After facing those shadows, we often emerge stronger, more integrated, and ready to embrace our full potential. That's where the sun comes in. Card number 19. It's about joy, vitality, the realization of our true selves.
The image definitely reflects that. The radiant sun, the child riding a white horse, all that golden light. What's the Kabbalistic connection here? How does Case interpret this, like burst of sunshine after the darkness of the moon?
He links the sun to the Hebrew letter resh, which it symbolizes a head, but in the sense of leadership, taking charge of our lives. The sun is about stepping into our power, radiating our unique gifts and talents into the world.
So we've faced those shadows, integrated those difficult lessons, and now we're ready to shine. It's almost like that child in the image, full of life, uninhibited, pure potential expressed outwardly.
Love that. Yeah, the sun is about embracing our authentic selves without fear or shame. It's about living life to the fullest and expressing our creativity.
This whole deep dive is giving me a new appreciation for this journey of the major arcana. It's not a linear path, it's more like a spiral, constantly evolving, deepening, with these themes coming back, but in near and more nuanced ways. But okay, we're nearing the end of the deck here. What comes after we've basked in the sun's light?
Well, after a period of growth, expansion, there often comes a time of, like, reckoning, taking stock of who we've become, making sure we're aligned with our purpose.
Okay, so who embodies that?
That's where judgment comes in. Card number 20.
Judgment. The image is pretty intense. The angel blowing the trumpet, people rising from their graves. It feels like something big is happening.
What's Case's take on judgment in light of everything we've explored so far?
He links it to the Hebrew letter shin, which it symbolizes a tooth.
A tooth. What does that have to do with judgment?
Might seem odd, but Case relates it to the idea of fire, purification, shedding of old identities. Judgment isn't about punishment, it's about awakening to our true selves, who we're meant to be.
So it's like after all that inner work, after facing our shadows, stepping into our power, there's this moment of truth.
Right.
Where we got to ask ourselves, am I living in alignment with my soul's purpose? Am I being the best version of myself? That's it exactly. It's about taking responsibility for our choices, our actions, and making sure we're moving in the right direction. It's a call to wake up, to step into our full potential and make a positive impact.
It's making me think about all the times I've ignored my intuition, made choices out of fear or obligation. Judgment feels like that wake-up call to say, no more excuses, time to step into who you're meant to be.
That's powerful. And now we arrive at the final card in the major arcana.
The grand finale.
You could say that, the world. Card number 21 represents the culmination of the journey, the completion of a cycle.
The image feels very celebratory. The dancing figure, the wreath, those creatures from the Wheel of Fortune. What does Case say about this, final stage of the tarot journey?
It connects it to the final letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Tau, which symbolizes a cross, but not a purely religious sense. Case says it's about the integration of spirit, matter, bringing all those lessons from the major arcana into the physical world.
So it's like, we've done the inner work, faced our shadows, stepped into our power, aligned with our purpose, and now the world is about expressing all of that in our everyday lives, about living in this state of wholeness, integration.
Beautifully put. The world represents that sense of completion, of having come full circle, integrated all those lessons. It's about celebrating life, embracing our interconnectedness, and expressing our unique gifts.
Wow, this deep dive has been quite a ride. We started with one book and ended up exploring the entire major arcana, uncovering layers of meaning I never knew existed. I'm definitely going to be looking at tarot cards in a whole new light now.
That's the power of the tarot, isn't it? It's this tool for self-discovery, for exploring the depths of our being, understanding those forces at play in our lives. It's like a mirror, reflecting back our own understanding, inviting us to constantly learn and grow.
It's like Case said, the real depth comes from our own study, our own reflection on the cards. So dear listener, I encourage you, pick up a deck, start your own journey of discovery. See what insights emerge for you, what connections you make, and what transformations unfold.
And remember, the journey doesn't end with the last card. It's a continuous cycle of growth, Introspection, integration. The tarot is a lifelong companion, guiding us as we navigate the complexities of life and strive to become the best versions of ourselves.